lighting. Let me just...
Making a plan to join us from his hotel room in Delhi, India, we have Mr. Ricardo Teixeira from the Institute of Race Relations and editor at the Daily Friend. Ricardo, thank you very much for making time. You've been in Delhi for a few weeks now. Well, not only in Delhi, but a few places.
I've been in India for 2.5 weeks now. I'm tired. I miss home. I never thought I'd say this, but I would rather deal with South African taxis. At least you know what they're going to do. I'm dying for a burger, but I've been hosted by the Indian Armed Forces. I did say to them that they have ruined these sorts of trips for me because they've treated me so well. I don't know how I'm going to go on another Sandesh trip again. It's been a fantastic time. It's been a chaotic time, but yeah, now I'm just trying to get home.
I mean, on that point, so you've had to deal with traffic in Delhi, but I think something a bit more important is shaking out over the weekend and the last 2 days. Of course, the conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran. Your flight, I think you're supposed to fly out today. That flight was cancelled, and hopefully you'll fly out tomorrow, so Wednesday.
Yeah, so until yesterday, Emirates was telling me that my flight is scheduled and will be going ahead. And then this morning I got an email saying, we're sorry to inform you that your flight has been cancelled. But I'd already, found another flight. But it's been utter chaos.
We might have lost Ricardo.
I don't know what happened there. Am I back? Okay.
You said it was utter chaos and then you cut out, so that was quite appropriate.
It's been utter chaos, but not just for me. So some of the other people that I've been on this trip with were flying home to Morocco, Egypt, Algeria, and Italy, and all of us have just been trying to figure out how the hell we're getting home. They did resume flights from Delhi to Dubai last night, but 2 of them had to turn around midway and come back. Yeah, I feel very sorry for the Armenian gent that's on this trip with us because he can't fly Air India through Pakistani airspace and no flights to Armenia through Turkish and Azeri airspace. So the usual flight, which would have gone from India over Oman and then north over Iran to Armenia, no longer possible. So the poor dude has been put on an Aeroflot flight via Moscow. So inshallah, Habibi, that is going to be a great time for him. But it's not just what's been happening in the Middle East. Also last week, Pakistan and Afghanistan started going to and exchanging bombs and suicide bombers. And that's been a fantastic time. But now it seems, it's very clear that Gulf War 3.0 is here. And it's not going to be over anytime soon. I know many people thought, it's just going to be quick when it happens, but it seems that the initiative on the Iranian side has been pushed down to junior commanders, so they are all just targeting and firing off missiles and drones at their own will and selecting targets on their own. Don't know what sort of chain of command is happening at this point, but it is utterly chaotic. The latest stats that I have from Qatar are that they shot down as of this morning, and they had shot down 2 Su-24 fighters, 39 drones, 101 ballistic missiles, and 3 cruise missiles. The UAE MOD, their latest stats, let's see if I can get them here quickly. Their latest are 174 ballistic missiles detected, of which 161 were intercepted, 8 cruise missiles intercepted, 645 drones intercepted. The Saudis and UAE said they are reserving the right to respond. We've seen 3 US F-15s shot down by Kuwait, which is pretty rough, but none of those pilots were killed. They all survived and ejected safely, although one's hand seems to be missing 2 fingers, and I think his flying time is over. But it is just utter chaos at the moment. Bloomberg reported that Qatar and the UAE and Bahrain were low on interceptors, and they have all refuted that and said that they have sufficient stockpiles to continue intercepting. And yeah, it seems that over the next 24 hours, the US is going to be heightening their attacks. Israel is switching over to Spice and JDAMs, which are not long-range bombs. So it shows that they have full air superiority over Iran at the moment. But Iran is still trying to take off and launch jets. We've seen MiG-29s, Su-24s, and other aircraft trying to take off. Some have successfully taken off. We did see a Yak-130 flying combat air patrols over Tehran today, which was crazy. From the Indian side, they're not involved. They are carefully monitoring the situation. I did see that 21,000 South Korean nationals are stuck in the region. India has a large diaspora in Iran, and they are monitoring them, keeping them safe. But as per the briefing I had with the Indian Air Force yesterday, there is no plan for them to do any sort of extractions at the moment, and they are tentatively monitoring and keeping their eyes on what's happening.
Ricardo, this kind of conflict, you mentioned the ammunition stockpiles. Is it as, am I being too reductionist in saying it just depends which side runs out of sort of countermeasures?
In a way, yes. But look, the one thing that Israel's been doing is targeting the Iranian ballistic missile launchers, but these are very rudimentary. These are not like HIMARS or any of those sorts of vehicles. These are trucks with a hydraulic ramp that can be, I saw one comment saying they can be rigged up by 3 drunk dudes in a day or 1 sober guy in a few hours. So it's very, very hard to degrade those. The drones can be launched from almost anywhere, but the interceptors take very, very expensive production lines to build them. It's not something that happens in a day. It takes months to build these. The US has not been able to build enough of them. They spent quite a few of them last year protecting Israel and the region when the last round of these kicked off in the 12-day war. So yeah, there is grave concern about the PAC-3 MSE and the PAC-2 interceptors for Patriot, the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 interceptors for Israel, and the THAAD interceptors that the US has supplied to the Gulf countries. So that is, those are going to be expensive to replace, and it's not going to happen quickly.
Yeah, we'll see exactly as you say. The US trying to maybe ramp it up now to try and get this. I don't think this kind of thing is ever finished, but to get it some kind of conclusion as quickly as they might want to, right?
Yeah, I think they would like to not conclude it, but to get to a point where their goals are achieved, which although the Secretary of War, Bureau-in-Chief Hegseth, has said regime change is not the goal, Trump has said regime change is what they're hoping for. But so far, the IRGC is still in place. The Iranian regime is still in place. There's a new Ayatollah. I don't know what his shelf life is going to be, or the head of the IRGC. I wish them well. That's not a job I'd want right now. But the Iranians are stubbornly persistent. The regime has been prepared for this. They have put measures in place. We know a week ago that the Ayatollah had announced that he had appointed 4 layers of successors for himself, and he had instructed the IRGC's high-ranking members to do the same. But as long as the IRGC exists, nothing is going to change in Iran. And the Iranian public have not yet got to the point where they have been able to rise up and overthrow them. I don't foresee this happening in the coming days. I think this is something that's going to drag on for weeks and months. There is, in my opinion, no end in sight at the moment.
Ricardo, just in terms of what the sense is for you and your colleagues on the ground, is there any kind of consensus in terms of how this might play out? I mean, different scenarios, I'm sure there's lots of those, but is there any kind of agreement on, this will end in 2 weeks or a month or anything like that?
So yesterday we had briefings with the Indian Army, Air Force and Navy, members of the Ministry of Defense, and I can't quote anyone, but I can definitively say based on the sources that I had discussed with and my fellow defense analysts here from other countries in North Africa, Europe, and Asia, none of us see this ending anytime soon. This is going to drag on for a while. I don't think this is going to be another 12-day war. I think this is probably going to be several months. As long as there is one Iranian IRGC hardliner waving the regime's flag, it's not going to end.
Ricardo, you're fortunately not in an active war zone, but you are closer than we are, of course, in the southern tip of Africa. Would you have expected, and have you received any communication support from the South African government, from associated bodies? Do you need it in this kind of situation, or because again you're not in Iran or the UAE or Qatar or even Saudi Arabia, it's reasonable to say, okay, they can't sort of get to everyone in the sort of region, as it were.
There's been nothing from the South African embassy here in India. We're not in the firing line, so I wasn't expecting anything from them. DIRCO did put out notice for those that are in the Middle East, although it did come pretty late. This seems to have caught DIRCO by surprise. I don't know why they didn't see the writing on the wall. I mean, this build-up has been happening for months. They've been advertising it for weeks that this is, it's coming soon. There was no travel advisory in place. I saw quite a few South Africans on Sunday and Monday were rocking up to OR Tambo and surprised that their flights were cancelled. And I think South Africans have been very naive in this aspect. I have some family friends and some high school friends that are in the Middle East, in Bahrain and Dubai and Saudi Arabia, and they were all shocked. And I think because we as South Africans, when we're at home, are very far away from things, we still kind of have that belief when we go to places. But a high school friend had moved to Bahrain in November and is now not sure what to do. And I said, well, step one, don't move to the Middle East. Like this is a very tense region. They were not too close to the base in Bahrain, but they then fled to Khobar in Saudi Arabia and ended up even closer to the base that's there in Khobar, and were unsure what to do. And I told them, guys, just, hunker down. Don't go near the windows. Don't go to public places, military areas or government areas. Stay inside. Wherever you are staying, probably the bathroom is the safest place to be, because they tend to be inwards, not on the peripheries of the building. And, a bathtub is a pretty safe place to hide from shrapnel. Showers as well. Stock up on food and water. Keep a go bag packed. Get in touch with the embassy. Although the South African embassy / high commissions in the region, the report that was put out, or the message that was put out by DIRCO on Twitter and shared widely, I went to go see what was happening with those links, and they were all error 404, domain not found. So we can say that DIRCO was caught off guard by this, and there is no plan. I did get into some arguments on Twitter with people who said, but of course there's a plan, like there was in Sudan and in Ukraine. But if we think back to those times, it was very reactive, not proactive. I don't think that there is an evacuation plan or a contingency plan in place. I don't think there will be for some time. I don't know if the government even knows where to begin with this, but I'm in touch with some of the attachés in the region, and they seem overwhelmed as well. It seems that the embassies just don't know what to do at the moment.
Sure. This really exposes, I guess, again, when one doesn't have any kind of plans in place. That isn't to say that you can predict the future, but to have contingencies in place is the big takeaway here, I think, for embassies, for businesses, for individuals who are traveling to certain regions around the world. It does reinforce that point, unfortunately. Ricardo, just from a, I guess, macro defense military analysis point of view, any sort of immediate trends that you're seeing in terms of how this is being fought, any continuation of developments that we saw maybe in the Russia-Ukraine war over the last 4 years? I mean, you've got the drones from the Iranian side, but the US and CENTCOM, they did unveil their own unmanned drones. So anything on that and how this is being done and that you think could be useful going forward?
So CENTCOM has used their reverse engineered version of the Shahed / Garan, the Locust, and that they have now used about 100 of them. So I think this is an opportunity for the Americans to be testing a lot of the new technologies that they have developed from lessons learned in Ukraine. One thing is clear is that the Middle Eastern countries were not prepared to intercept such high volumes of drones. I mean, a Shahed drone costs about around $100,000. Patriot missiles costs upwards of $600 to $1 million. So they are expending expensive munitions on low cost, expensive interceptors on low cost munitions. It's nuts seeing what they're doing. I mean, using an AIM-120, which is I believe $1.6 million missile on a on a drone that costs about $100,000. This is not effective or efficient. There seems to be a lack of counter drone systems throughout the region, but the UK has said that they are going to send their counter drone systems and Ukrainian counter drone experts to the Middle East to assist. But there were some US service members killed in an attack in I believe it was Kuwait or Qatar in a temporary headquarters that was set up. They were under the cover of a Patriot battery, but unfortunately there was no counter rocket and artillery mortar or counter UAS system around, and the drone came in so quickly that I don't think they were aware and didn't have time to react, and it just cost the US the lives of 6 service members. I think it's a very painful experience for them and a painful loss. And yeah, I think there are going to be quite a few body bags going home to different countries after this. And yeah, it's shocking, and it brings home the reality of what the Ukrainians have been living through. Now the whole region is living through. I think the one thing the Iranians have done here is unite the region against them. I mean, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar were not willing to allow the US to use their bases in their countries to launch these attacks, but they still ended up getting struck. I mean, Qatar was trying to be a mediator between the US and Iran, between Israel and Hamas, and now they've got struck. I mean, even Oman that hosted the negotiations last week got a couple of missiles on their territory. So it's now very much a balls to the wall Iran versus the world situation where they feel this is an existential threat, so everyone's a target.
Very much so, unfortunately. Ricardo, the impact on India. I mean, you're talking to individuals, representatives on the sort of army defense side, but what about economics, maybe trade impact? I think India, very reliant on Russian oil and gas, so maybe okay in that regard. But are there any feelings in terms of that impact?
It's mainly the oil and gas. So yes, they've been reliant on Russian oil and gas, but it hasn't been they haven't been a sole supplier, and they have been forced to move away from it because of the US threatening to slap sanctions on them for buying Russian oil and gas. So they have been buying from the Gulf countries, and we've seen the oil prices starting to go up now. There's going to be no oil shipments through the Straits of Hormuz at the moment, and yeah, Saudi Arabia's largest refinery under Aramco has been hit. So I think it was a terrible timing for us South Africans because the petrol price was about to go down, but now the dollar's going up slightly towards the rand, and the oil price is going to go through the roof. So yeah, this is I think we're going to have a global oil crisis if this continues for as long as I think it is. No one's going to be refining and exporting in the region in their usual volumes for quite some time now.
I think with around 20% of global oil moving through the Strait of Hormuz, there were some estimates I saw yesterday. If it's fully closed and for an extended period of time, so I think between 3 and 4 weeks, then you've got oil going to above $100 per barrel, where it's been sort of 60, 65, just touching 72, I think, today.
Yeah, it's going to be alarming. I think it's going to be bad for South Africa because we don't have very deep oil reserves. And yeah, but I think we will have the opportunity to get it from other sources, like through the Red Sea, from Jeddah on the Saudi southern coast, and of course we can always get from the North African countries, Algeria, and maybe Morocco. But yeah, it's going to be rough. The oil price is going to go through the roof. I think $100 is going to be achievable in the next 2 weeks easily.
Ricardo, sort of diplomatic implications, fallout. As I said, you probably would have been discussing more military and defense matters, but is there any kind of feeling or vibe or feedback in terms of sort of how this affects relations between countries, and specifically any feelings towards South Africa or not? Yeah.
So South Africa, for us, I mean, we've always kind of had a warm relationship with Iran to our detriment. We've abstained from any UN votes trying to call them out for human rights abuses. We held a memorial for the Ayatollah on Sunday, which I still can't fathom that happened. I don't know why we thought that was a good idea. But I think this is very bad for the ANC because it's a long-term ally for them that is now kind of no longer being anyone else's ally and has turned the whole region against them. Yeah, like I said, I think that Iran has united the region against them, and I think Cyril calling for dialogue is very naive because dialogue's what got us here. It was a failure of negotiations. Calling for dialogue and restraint right now is just shows how we don't really have anything else that we can say. South Africa and Dirk over the presidency don't have many cards in this regard, if we can reuse that phrase. So yeah, it's a tough one to see, but a long-term ally of Russia and China and South Africa is in survival mode. But yeah, it's too soon to tell what the long-term diplomatic effects are going to be for South Africa. But yeah, I mean the Iranian ship that visited South Africa for Exercise Will for Peace, the INS Nagdi, has been sunk. The Shahid Bagheri has been sunk. So yeah, all of the Iranian ships that visited South Africa no longer tend to be floating. They're all either sinking or have sunk. I think the Americans have sunk more than there was notice that they had sunk 9 ships. I think they've sunk more than that now. I think this is the largest loss of Iranian ships since Operation Praying Mantis. For anyone that is interested, there's a YouTube channel called Operations Room that has a great breakdown of that exercise where the US sunk about 40% of the Iranian fleet in a single day, and it seems to be round 2 in that regard. So yeah, I'm getting tired of living through these unprecedented moments.
Yeah, please give us precedented times again.
I'm looking forward to precedented times because I now have a lot to write about.
I think we all look forward to everything you're going to write and talk about once you're back home and safe again. Ricardo, any last thoughts? Because I want to be cognizant of your time and other meetings and commitments I'm sure you want to get to before you come back. So anything else that you want to leave us with?
Buy gold as the price keeps going up. If you haven't bought gold already, now is a great time to be buying or selling gold. Yeah, and if you are in the Middle East and you don't know what a go bag is a bag with 3 days worth of clothes, water, non-perishable foods. If you have any cash, put it in. Keep documents such as passports, IDs, birth certificates in there as well. And any medication. If you have a first aid kit, put it in there. If you don't have cash, don't run to an ATM. If you are looking for a place to shelter and you're not sure what to do, ideally the ground floor of a building, away from the windows, away from populous areas, military areas, and government buildings. If there is a bathroom within your place that is towards the center of the building, that is probably the best place to go. If you or anyone else is injured for wounds on the extremities, such as your limbs, you want to tourniquet it about 30 centimeters away from the wound. So if it's on the lower leg, don't clamp up the whole leg, clamp up around below the knee if it's below the knee, above the knee if it's closer towards the knee. Don't want to keep the tourniquet on for more than an hour, so take note of the time you are applying the tourniquet. If it's on the head or torso, you want to be packing the wounds and applying pressure, and in those cases, get to a hospital as soon as possible. If there is an object sticking out of you, do not remove it, leave it in, pack around it, apply pressure, get some medical attention. That's the only advice I can give people right now. If you are a South African and you're trying to get a hold of the embassy, good luck. I think the embassies are a bit overwhelmed at the moment, but please get in touch with the embassies, keep your phones charged, and be safe.
I'll come for the military, defense, geopolitical analysis. Stay for the practical sort of advice. Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Ricardo. We really appreciate your time. Given everything going on. So thank you very much to all of you who joined us this Tuesday morning. Thank you very much. Back at the CRA Risk Desk, and we'll have much more for you in the next few days and weeks on this situation and, of course, all sorts of South African political and economic developments. Until next time, this has been Chris Hattingh for the Center for Risk Analysis. Take care.